The haunting hour is at hand. Ghostly hauntings since time began. Raw side paranormal seeks the truth, looking for some kind of real proof. Creepy floorboards and eerie dark mist. Grab your camera and document this. No time to run, no time to hide. We are catching all of this on the raw side. A slamming door causes a fright. A shadowed hand appears in sight. Grab your REM pods and your K2s, or anything else you can use. No time to run, no time to hide. We are catching all of this on the wrong side. A slamming door causes a fright. A shadowed hand appears in sight. Grab your REM pods and your K2s, or anything else you can use. No time to run, no time to hide. We are catching all of this on the raw side. The icy air touches your neck. You feel like screaming, but you stay in check. All's rising up to take the magical flight. You can't believe what's happening tonight. Don't run, don't try to hide. We are catching this all on the raw side. Don't run, don't try to hide. We are catching this all on the raw side.
Welcome to the raw side, everybody. I'm glad everybody could pop in and join us. And we're going to say, hi, Christina. How are you? I love the guitar in this. Oh, I know. Isn't it great? Friends of mine put it together for me, and I'm loving it. Hopefully, everybody will start popping in really quick and really soon, because we have a treat for us tonight, and welcoming Mr. Joe Frankie from the Warren Legacy Foundation. So we get to pick his brain and figure out how all of that works and what he does for everybody. Hey, Mr. Jeff, trouble's in the house. I was already warned about you, Mr. Jeff. Everybody put your hands together and welcoming Mr. Joe Frankie. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Laura. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm good. Thank you. You are very welcome. Let's see. We already got some stuff here. Now this feels kind of spooky. I feel like I'm in the house by myself, and the white lady might come along. Yeah, there's always a white lady. You never know.
Yeah.
Jeff's already in here lurking.
Oh, Jeff, block him. Jeff's bad news. He's a bad influence on me. No, I'm kidding. I love Jeff and Dana.
You guys corrupt each other. Put it that way. It makes it fair. Oh, Christina says that I don't think the house is haunted. I don't think haunted houses have this kind of cool music. Oh, okay. Well, they just have to have some friends that have the magic fingers with the AI. He said he'll attempt to behave.
I guess that's all I can ask.
I guess we can all ask anybody. Okay, Joe, like I said, we introduced you as a member. Actually, you are the chairman of the Warren Legacy Foundation. But before we get into all of that, I always like to ask all of my guests that we know about your work and maybe your background in the paranormal, but we don't know much about Joe. And we'd like to know about Joe himself first before we start, digging into the meat of the of the subject.
Well, there's not much to tell. I mean,
hi, Rob. Welcome. Oh, there's always something to tell.
Oh God. Well, I mean, I've been around. I've been involved in the paranormal all my adult life, in some way, shape, or form. But if you want to know a little bit of history, it started out when I was a little kid. I was named after my maternal grandfather, and I love this story. I tell it all the time. But I was 3.5 years old, and I was named after my grandfather, and we were very close. I don't remember much of him because I was so young, but when I lecture, I tell this story. I call it my divine experience because I was sleeping. My parents had put us to bed. It was a Monday night. I remember my mom tells the story. God rest her soul. She's not with us anymore. But some years ago, I asked her to put this story down on paper in an email. I said, because Mom, someday you're not going to be here. And I have that story in her own words. So my parents were out watching in the living room watching Monday Night Football. And I was sound asleep in my bunk, my bottom bunk. My brother was on top. And all of a sudden, my mother and father said that I came running out into the living room. And my eyes were closed. I was, sleepwalking. And I said, someone called Joe. Someone called me. What, mommy, what, kind of thing. And my parents just looked at each other and said, he's just having a dream. She put me back to bed. So about 2 minutes later, same thing. I come out into the living room and I'm rubbing my eyes, she said, but I never opened them. I was asleep. And I said, someone called Joseph, and I remember hearing this male voice, very soft male voice said, Joseph, come with me. Joseph, come with me, or come to me. And I remember this light. And I remember very vividly, but that's all I remember of that whole situation. So my mother puts me back into bed the second time. And my grandmother calls and says, I can't wake up your father. And so what had happened was my grandfather was a very religious man, very Roman Catholic, very religious man. And he had an easy chair in his bedroom. And every night before he would turn in, he would go up, sit in his chair, and read the Bible. He was, like I said, very devout Catholic. And what happened is my grandmother went up there and she's like, oh, he fell asleep in the chair again. And she went to wake him up and she couldn't wake him up. He had actually died in his sleep. He fell asleep in the chair and passed away of a heart attack.
Oh my.
And they say that only the good die young. I mean, my grandfather at that point, I think he was only like 69 years old. I'm not too many years from that myself. So why I call it my divine experience is because I am convinced, I know this in my heart, that because I had such a close bond and close connection with my grandfather, I heard God calling him. And I remember it very vividly, but no one will ever convince me otherwise. But I had that connection with him, and he used to pick me up sometimes and take me to church with him. And things like that. So, but again, I was only 3.5 years old. But within that short time frame, I had such a connection with him that I know that I heard him being called. And to this day, every case I go on, I have that Bible with me. That is a Bible that has been on every case I've ever had over the last almost 40 years. So,
that's wonderful. Hi, Faith.
Hey, guys. So, fast forward 15 years, when I was a teenager, I was 18 years old, just fresh out of high school, just freshly dating my wife. We'd only been dating for a couple of months, I think. And she happened to notice in the newspaper that the Warrens were lecturing just 2 exits down the highway from where we live. And she said, would you like to go and see the Warrens, this lecture? I said, yeah, sure. Sounds like a great idea. Better than seeing a movie. So that's how it all started. I met Lorraine and I walked up to the table and she looked at me and she, like, kind of funny, how that look you give somebody? It was like, I know this person. Where do I know them from? And she said, honey, have we met before? And I said, no, Lorraine, we've never met. I said, I've heard a lot about you. I've seen you on television and radio and print media. We didn't have internet back then.
Right.
This is long before the internet and social media. And she's looking at me. Now, I didn't know what she was doing at the time, but I'll explain in a second. She said to me, she goes, there's a reason why you're here tonight. She goes, make sure you come and see Ed and I after the show. So I was really excited. I don't think I could contain a thought in my head because I didn't know what was going on. So after the show, we had gone out to a diner, and that was customary of Ed, really. And I told Ed he could have wrote a book on diners. Anytime we would be out working on a case or have a lecture, we'd always like find a diner somewhere, have a little something to eat, and discuss the events of the day. And so she was sitting across from me, and she's holding my hands, and she's reading my aura. She explained to me what she was doing. Lorraine had the ability to read people's auras. That's that supernatural glow that emanates from all of us.
Yep.
And she said, I can tell by your aura and the colors that you were meant to do this work. She said, would you like to come and work with Ed and I? And, I'm like, yeah. So that's how I got started. And there was a few people in their class, the first class that I remember, we're talking like 1986. And we would convene on Monday nights at a place called Hawley Manor in Newtown, Connecticut. Building is still there. It's under a different name now, but there's a little room in the back. There's not much bigger than a closet, but there's a little room in the back that the Warrens used, and that's where Ed brought in all of his tapes, video, audio, their case notes, and he would play the tapes. And that's when I first learned about Annabelle and Amityville and the cases that the Conjuring movies are based on, because most of all those cases were before my time. Obviously, Annabelle was, I think, around 1970. I was 2 years old.
Right.
The Amityville case was 75. I was, what, 7? And then the Harrisville haunting, as you guys know it as the Conjuring House, happened in the early 70s. The family lived there for about 8 or 9 years. So that was all before my time, but I learned firsthand from them what really happened on those cases.
Right.
They're pretty frightening. What I don't understand is once Hollywood gets a hold of these movies, once they get their talons into this stuff, they take a lot of liberties. So take with a big grain of salt what you see in the movies. They're based on the original case, yes, but Hollywood takes over and they have all their special effects stuff and blood and gore, and that's what people like, I guess.
That's what brings in the views.
Like that. Well,
right.
That's what put butts in the seats. Even when I lecture, I had a woman ask me a couple of weeks ago in the audience. She's like, "Why is it all about devils and demons and negativity?" I said, "I've got just as many good stories if you'd like to hear them." And I told her a couple of good stories where we helped rescue spirits and help them pass over and things like that. But people want to hear the scary stuff.
Oh,
and
yes.
This is real scary stuff because it's real. It actually happened. And, not like we see in the movies, but not too many people left that had those experiences. There's me, there's John, my friend John Zaffis, who's Ed's nephew, and then Chris, who's their grandson. We're old. I guess you call us old school now.
School, yeah.
So
we all fall in the line of old school.
That's how I got started.
Right.
And the rest, as they say, is history. I mean, it was a number of years before I was allowed to go on a case on my own. Because I had to learn.
Right.
Nowadays people go out there and I worry about them because, what training have they had? If you're just, relying on television to get training, you're in big trouble. I worry that, and I get a lot of people that contact me saying we were in this house and something happened. We didn't know what to do. We knew we were over our heads. And I'm like, all right, well, tell me what happened. And I try to help everybody, but my first response is, well, what the hell are you doing there and doing what you were doing when you don't know what you're doing? I said, you're opening yourself up for attack, spiritual attack, God forbid physical attack, because it can get physical. And I've got the scars to prove it. It's no fun. It's no fun, Jeff. Remember that.
She says, yeah, it's okay. They're trained by YouTube. Yeah, they are.
Yeah, YouTube.
That's what I wanted to, another one of the questions I want to ask is, what kind of training did you go through?
Well, my training was firsthand, hands-on with Ed and Lorraine. So I would go on a lot of cases, mostly local cases, because I still had a full-time job and everything. I couldn't fly all over the world with them. I wish I could. And then we had the classes, and like I said, they would teach us about what they did with these classes and what clergy they would bring in and what evidence you would have to bring to the church if it, God forbid, an exorcism or a deliverance was necessary. And Ed would talk to me about, legions of demons and things like that. Ed was a lay demonologist. Basically a demonologist is someone who studies the hierarchy of demons, of which there are many. I don't know. I don't know them all, and I don't want to know them, If I never get another case that involves the demonic in my life, I will be happy, But, so we had the classes, and then the classes shifted to a place called the Carousel Gardens restaurant. It was a much bigger venue, and we were real friends with the owner and his wife, and the place was actually haunted by a good spirit, and the classes grew from there. I mean, they went from a handful of people to dozens of people that would come and pay for these classes. Some people stuck it out, some people haven't. So most of the people have dropped off and disappeared. They're not involved in the work anymore.
Only question I have is, did Ed or
training.
Lorraine have any degrees, like in parapsychology or psychology, any kind of degrees to back their?
I don't know for sure. I don't know if they did any actual studies or took any courses. I just know that Lorraine was very gifted. She went to a Catholic high school, and she could always read auras, she said. And she used to get in trouble by the nuns at this Catholic high school because, she would read their auras and tell them what she saw. And she said something. I remember she told me she said something or sensed something about Mother Superior, and she got in trouble for it because it wasn't good. And Ed's background is he grew up in a haunted house, I think from the ages of like 5 to 12. Ed's father was a police officer, very level-headed, and would say, "Son, there's a reason for everything." He just kind of would poo-poo the fact that Ed would say he would see these spirits coming out of his, closet,
right.
Things like that. So it's a very good question, but I don't know the answer. I don't want to speculate, but I don't think they've had any, like collegiate training or anything. I don't even know if courses existed back then. There might have been courses.
Because basically, I was going to ask you if you had any kind of college degrees in the parapsychology or any kind of theology.
No, I haven't. I've had background in that. I don't claim to be a demonologist. I work with people that are demonologists. I just have a lot of knowledge, but no, I haven't taken any courses. I know Jeff's going to laugh, but you can take online courses for $9.99 and in 2 weeks get a degree.
A certificate, right?
No, I haven't. But I mean, I've lived this stuff for all these years, so I would say that trumps any kind of college degree.
I mean, I know really is no degree in paranormal. In the paranormal
no,
issues.
I mean, you could take psychology, parapsychology.
Right.
There are courses. There are online schools. I've been thinking about taking a course through. I think it's IMHS. A couple of friends of mine took some courses through that and passed the courses, but it took them a couple of years because these courses are very, very involved, very in depth, and like one course might have 2 sub courses to it or something. But one friend of mine, it took her a little over a year, but she kind of really hunkered down and studied and did the work. And then another one of my friends, it said it took him about 2 to 3 years to finish it.
Right. Yeah, that's usually what they say, about 2 to 3 years.
I think it's IMHS if people want to look it up. It's not a brick and mortar school. It's some kind of online course that you.
Most of it is. Yeah, all this study is. It actually makes it easier when it is online because it's more flexible with your schedules.
I thought about it, but I know me, and I get so busy and preoccupied with other things that I'm the kind of person that would sign up for it and then just take forever to finish it. I mean, I would finish it, but I know it would take me a while, and that's why I haven't even had my book out yet. I mean, I've got an outline, I've got some chapters written, but there's so much to tell. If I was to hunker down for like a couple of months and just write, and I could get it out, but
Yeah, you
I
just have to
can't get out
be
of my own way, and I'm
right. You got
brutally
to be
honest.
totally committed to that project.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Jeff
no, I
says I
never
call
had any.
myself the Pope.
What's that?
Yeah, Jeff says he calls himself the Pope of the First Church of Jeff, Jeff the Baptist.
Jeff, trust me, I trust your wisdom over a lot of people. Believe me.
Oh,
You
geez.
know, I
Well,
mean,
because a lot
I've
of people
known.
claim,
Mhm.
they claim being demonologists and all of this stuff. And, I was always, brought up to believe that the only people that can actually take care of that is through the Catholic Church, through the Vatican. There is training that the church gives you on how to take care of matters like that. So when you got, the demonology school of Bob, I mean, how much confidence can you have in that?
Yeah.
Formal training. I mean, even though there isn't a certificate for it, there is formal training. And, and you have to do an apprenticeship to get to a certain spot where you can take care of something like that.
Yeah. It's so
And
easy for people to give themselves labels.
yeah,
And I don't do that. Somewhere in one of my descriptions it says I'm a demonologist. I said no, I don't claim to be a demonologist. I was a paranormal researcher for many years. I've worked with demonologists. I've worked with the clergy. Obviously, too many people out there say they're exorcists. Jeff's gonna laugh at this one. These guys that say they're an exorcist and will charge us $6.95 per demon to remove it. And I'm not even kidding. There are people out there that'll charge you. One guy said,
I believe it.
I forget who told me this story, but this guy claimed he had 6 or 7 demons, and the guy charged him $1,500 per demon, and the guy paid him. It's like $7,500.
Oh, you're
And I'm like,
scared. Yeah, they're
I'm
picking
like, are you
anything.
kidding
Yeah.
me? I mean, look, I'll tell you right off the bat, folks. The work that I've done, we don't charge a penny for. The only way I make any money is through my events, through my lecturing, and my book. Hopefully, when it comes out, that's how the Warrens made their money. The Warrens never charged people. They made their money from their lecturing. Of course, they traveled all over the world, and through their book deals and stuff like that. So. Obviously, part of the foundation, but we survive on donations if people want to donate. I've helped families that were so grateful that they're like, "How much do we owe you?" And I said, "Nothing." And they're like, "Oh my God, you don't take payment?" And I said, "No." I said, my payment is just to see the relief in your face. I tell our team, I'm like, look, what you get back from the work. I mean, you put your whole heart and soul into this work. Okay, but what you can get back from it is immeasurable. You can't put that into dollars. So the people that have said, well, I'd like to donate something, I said, fine, you could donate to the Warren Legacy Foundation, which was founded by Chris and Lorraine before she passed away. I know she wanted this. She wanted their legacy to live on. Now, I would be doing this work in their honor anyway, even if the foundation didn't exist. And I do a lot of work on the side. What cases come into me personally, I just try to handle them. Most of them are nothing. Most of them are just psychosomatic. And I'm not saying people are making this stuff up. I'm just saying in their mind, they really have a paranormal affliction when it clearly could be something else. I mean, you hear scratching sounds or knocking or whatever. Well, I had a case where they had a raccoon family living in their attic. And they were so relieved. I had one lady that this is years ago. It's a funny story though. This woman took a picture with this old, 1 megapixel digital camera. It's one of those flip cameras, very old camera. And with her phone, she took a picture of it into her bathroom. And she saw this figure in the window. Now it's on the second floor, So she saw this outline of a figure, of a person, human being. And she got so scared. And she didn't live that far from me, maybe about 20 minutes. So, she got a hold of me, and she was a single mom with a little daughter. Her daughter, I think, was 7 or 8 years old. And I went out there, I said, I'll come out and take a look, take a look around. And I came out there, and I said, well, show me the picture. Now, she didn't even have a computer. But I took my computer, I hooked up her phone to my computer, and I brought the picture up on my computer. And I said, honey, dear, this is you. What she took a picture of was her reflection in the bathroom window. But it was one of those frosted windows that you have in bathrooms, so people can't see it. But the picture was so lousy, that she thought that it was like a shadow person or something. And the way I
Right.
could tell that it was her and prove to her is when I was able to blow it up and clear it up a little bit. She was wearing a sweatshirt that said Michigan on it, and you could see,
Yeah.
the writing. And she was,
Right.
I mean, to see the relief on her face was just, I mean, there's no better form of payment than that. And she
Oh
looked at me.
yeah.
She's like, I am so sorry. I said, for what? She goes, I've wasted your time. I said, do you feel better? And she said, absolutely. I said, well, then I did my job.
That's
No
right.
reason to be sorry. I said,
Sure.
if you're okay, because she was really terrified. And then she's like, I can't afford to move. I can barely pay my rent. I got my daughter. So I mean, these are the kind of cases I would get. Also, it's not all the blood and guts and gory stuff that people want to show
Right.
up on YouTube. And hey, that's okay. But what I tell people on YouTube is, if you're going to do this, put a disclaimer up there that says it's for entertainment purposes, because don't mislead people. And that's what I see. I watch some of these things on YouTube, and when I'm looking for Jeff's channel, and,
And he's
and I
looking for
watch
your
some of these
channel,
things,
Jeff.
and I mean, the reaction videos and the thumbnails are, oh, a demon attacked me, a demon scratched me, I spent the night in the demon house, and I'm saying, oh my god.
Well, did
I
you know,
just
Joe? This is the year of the demon.
Well, look, I don't want to, please believe me, I'm not out to insult anyone at all, but it's like you're scaring yourself, especially the people that really believe this.
Right.
But let me just tell you, I've said this a million times, if you had a demon, I mean, an
Hey,
actual
Dom.
demonic infestation, you would
Right.
know it. You would know it. I mean, it would make its presence known because it would want your soul, and that is demonic activity. I'm going to say this right now. Demonic activity is extremely rare, and possession is rarer still, but
Right.
it does exist, and it is ugly. I've been involved with a couple of exorcisms with Bishop McKenna years ago, and I'm telling you, it's the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life. It is not fun.
Yeah.
And I remember
That's
Bishop
not so
McKenna
fun.
he would meet with us, and us meaning there's a couple other guys my size trying to, hold this person down to protect
Right.
them from themselves, from hurting themselves,
Right.
or the exorcist. And Bishop McKenna would say, don't look at it, don't talk to it, don't acknowledge it. And he would say it, not him or her, because he's
Yeah.
talking about the
It.
demon, not the person.
Welcome, Odd. Welcome
And
to the chat.
so, yeah, so that was very real, but it wasn't like, yeah, okay, every Sunday at 3 o'clock we're having an exorcism. It just drives me crazy. I sit here yelling at the TV screen, and my wife's like, "What's going on down there? Who are you yelling at?" And I'm like, I said, I'm worried that these people are going to get an attachment. I said, because they're opening doors to things they don't possibly understand. But who am
Right.
I? I'm the guy they call when the shit hits the fan, and now they're in trouble.
Exactly.
You know,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Dom says, yeah, he's been around it for 30 years and he's seen it maybe 5 times. And that's a
and
lot.
that's a lot.
Yeah.
Jinx, you're right,
Maybe there's
Dom.
more of them in
It's rare.
Canada.
It's very rare, and I'll tell you another quick story, if I may,
Go ahead.
about demonic infestation. There was a case that I had where it was during the pandemic, so I couldn't go anywhere. We were all locked in our homes for 2 years or whatever. And this woman claimed that she was possessed. Now, first of all, let me say, someone that's possessed doesn't know they're possessed. Okay? If someone is possessed, that means that your consciousness is pushed into the background, and this, whatever it is, this demon uses your body, uses your voice
Right.
to manifest. Okay? The person itself, they're still there, but they're pushed to the background. All right? But they don't remember anything that was said or done while they were under this possession. All right? Now, demons can't just attach themselves to people. They need to be conjured. They need to be allowed in or welcomed in some way, shape, or form. Whether you do it, consciously or unconsciously. And that's why I have a whole segment where I talk about divination. Now I talk about this from my Catholic Church perspective. I have a good friend who's a Wiccan, and they use spirit boards, talking boards, or we call them Ouija boards. But they're not using them for the case of foretelling the future, which is what divination is. using
Excuse me.
supernatural means to try to discover information, hidden information, or information about the future. And it is of my opinion, and I say this because it is my opinion, but God did not intend for us to know our future. And when I talked to my audience, I said, how many people in this room and how many people here, if anyone want to comment, if you could know the date and time and manner of your own death, would you want to know it? I certainly wouldn't.
No.
And usually I don't get too many people that raise their hands. Sometimes I get one or two people that say, yeah, I'd like to know. I'm like, okay, we can still be friends. I don't agree with you, but that's okay. It's your choice.
Hey, I don't know, because then you're living on like a timeline. It's you don't live.
Yeah, but then what they would do is if that is your future, that is God's will, and what they'll do is try to change it, but you can't.
Yeah.
You can't. So that's where it gets into dangerous things. So I'm sorry, I digress a lot. I was telling you a story about Bishop.
Go ahead.
God rest his soul, but no, he would tell us. So I told you that story, and then so I started to tell you about this woman. So this woman, I would talk to her through what is it, FaceTime or not FaceTime, through
Messenger.
Yeah, thank you. I'm an old guy. I'm not up to speed on this hip lingo. I gotta turn to my adult children to help me sometimes. But I said,
I'm not a spring chicken, but I try to keep up.
So I said, could you please get close to the camera so I can see you? I said, get really close. And what I was looking for, and Ed taught me this, he said, look at the eyes. Have you ever heard the term, the old cliche, the eyes are the windows to the soul? There's a lot of truth to that. So I got her finally. She resisted. I don't think it was her resisting. I thought it was something manifesting. And I finally got her to get her eyes close up to the camera so I could see them. And I'm telling you, I kid you not, I saw two sets of pupils looking back at me.
Yeah, that's scary.
Now, this is through a camera, so I guess there could be an explanation for it scientifically. But it scared the bejesus out of me. I'm like, oh my God. It was almost like there was two people in there looking at me. So, the problem with people that do have these kind of afflictions is they have to be willing to do the work. Okay? And a lot of them are not. You tell them, okay, you need to deal with your spiritual life. You need to be strong spiritually, emotionally, and psychologically. Physical size and strength has nothing to do with this. You need to be strong. You need to get right with God and go to church. And she wouldn't do that. Oh, you don't understand, Joe. It won't let me. I said, bullshit. It won't let you. I said, you're in charge, not whatever this is. But if they're not able to do the work, or if they don't have a support system like family or friends that can help them, then there's not much we can do for them. And I've asked people, why did you contact us? Or why did you contact me if you're not willing to listen to me and do what I'm asking you to do? I said, they call up or they'll text me or email me, because I give people my phone number. I don't care. If somebody needs my phone number, I give it to you. And they'll say, Joe, I need you to come over and get rid of this thing. I said, that's not what I do. I said, what I can do is help you get rid of it. I said, this is your house. This is your life. This is your family. Okay? I'm not going to show up with a proton pack on my back. It doesn't work that way. That's Hollywood. That's TV and movies. I said, you need to do the work. And sometimes it could take quite a while. It's not going to happen overnight. It could take years. I mean, even exorcisms. I mean, look at the movie The Exorcist. I don't know if everybody knows the story behind that. That movie was very largely based on a true case of a 14-year-old boy in 1949. It was a 14-year-old boy, and he was a NASA engineer. He grew up to be a NASA engineer. He just died in 2020, actually. But what happened there was he was very close to his aunt, who was a spiritualist, who used the Ouija board because she believed she could communicate with the dead. And that's necromancy. You don't want to be doing that. And so she opened
the door.
She opened the door. That's the door. Well, what happened was, she got him to play with her, with the Ouija board. And then what happened was she passes away. So what does he do? Tries to use the Ouija board to continue talking to her.
Right.
And the next thing you know, it turned into a full-on possession, and it took 67 exorcisms to liberate him. Make no mistake, you don't just come over with a bunch of holy water, sprinkle it around, and everything's fine.
Right, right. No, it's a long process.
It's a long process. It could take, I think one of the exorcists, Father Lampert, said that the average is probably like 3 years. It depends on what you're dealing with. Are you dealing with the lower level demon? Or are you dealing with Satan himself? Or are you dealing with Legion? Are you dealing with many? And these phonies and frauds out there that claim that they can get rid of these things, and they charge people. And some people are just so gullible or so desperate for help that they believe this.
Right. Oh, Don, I'm sorry. Hopefully everything's okay with the family emergency. Hopefully everything's all right.
Oh, yeah.
Please,
God
please
bless
let me know.
So anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all
right. I get on my pulpit. I never be quiet.
That's okay. We got one comment here by Odd Pulp. He says, my sister and my mother saw another member of my family be possessed by something. It was a large, dark hooded shadow upon him. They didn't call it a demon, though.
Mm-hmm. Not everything is a demon. There are very negative spirits out there that may have been human at one point. If you're an asshole in life, you're probably an asshole in death.
That's what I say too. There's always
a negative. There's a lot of that goes around.
Spirit that's just angry.
And they can cause harm. They can cause harm, but they don't have the strength to pick you up and throw you across the room.
Right, right.
That happened to me. I was 350 pounds.
Yeah, that's pretty. Yeah, Bob Larson claims he does 1,500 per year.
Yeah, that's impossible. It's impossible. It's what, 3 a day? More than 3 a day.
The guy you see on the YouTube. I think I've seen some of that stuff.
I don't know the man, so I'm not going to judge, but my bullshit meter just pegged. So
there you go. It's pretty much if it's a guy I think he's talking about, it's a big B.
I don't know the man personally. I know the name, and it angers me because you're taking advantage of people, and someone like that is not going to be. God's not going to give gifts like that to someone like that. But no lay person can exorcise a demon. We as lay people can pray prayers of deliverance, which are very strong prayers, and sometimes
I'm glad that you said that. I'm glad you come out with that, because that's
when you're praying for deliverance prayers, you're praying for the person. You never ever direct those prayers or those instructions to the demon. You're playing with fire right there. He goes, that's what Bishop McKenna always said. Don't look at it. Don't talk to it. If it looks at you and says something, you don't acknowledge it. You don't give it any recognition whatsoever. Just turn away, and it's hard. It's hard because sometimes they'll look at you, they'll spit at you, and they'll say things and say, accuse you, your mother was a blah, 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 and, believe me, I hope nobody on this thread ever has to deal with something like that.
Yeah, that's not what I mean about it. Jeff said, I'll judge. He says the guy's full of shit.
Well, Jeff, you know what? I agree with you. I agree with you, but there's a lot of people like this person that also do this kind of stuff. And, you ask those people questions, and where did you study this? Where did you learn? Were you ordained and given, this permission? Now, Jesus gave us all permission to cast out demons, but we're not exorcists. There's too many people. That word is used too freely these days.
Exactly.
Everybody's a demonologist. Everybody's an exorcist. And I'm like, oh my God, help me.
Yeah. And they have no clue on what it entails, the education you need, the faith.
They
basically the faith. How can you be like an atheist or whatever, and then, but I'm a demonologist or I'm an exorcist? Well, how are you going to do that when you can't call on the one person, or should say being, that is the one that's going to take care of it. I mean, if you don't have a faith system, you
Yep.
how are you calling on God to help you out with something like that?
You hit the nail on the head, because I've had people say, "Well, Jesus, Joe, should I go out and get some Bibles and some crucifixes and some holy water?" And I said, "Why?" I said, "What good are they going to do you if you don't believe in it?"
Exactly.
Faith is your most powerful weapon. And I always
Right.
coin a phrase from the movie Miracle on 34th Street. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but the original one, where the actor says, faith is believing in something that common sense tells you not to. Now think about
Exactly.
that for a second. It is so true. You
Yep.
know, common sense to say, well, why should I believe in something I can't see or touch or hear, something that's not tangible? Because you have to have faith. Do you believe in air? Well, yeah, air sustains life. We need to breathe it to live, but you
Right.
can't see it. I mean, you can't.
You don't see it, so it's there.
You got to have that faith. Now, if you're strong spiritually and you're strong in your faith, and you believe in what the crucifix symbolizes, and and the protection it provides you, then great. If you don't have that faith, then it's just nothing more than a piece of metal around your neck or a piece of wood
Right.
hanging on your wall. And the
Right.
Bible is just a book of pages with some words on it. If you don't believe in it, but you know, God is forgiving, and anyone that may not believe and they have some kind of problem, I would say, well, you need to believe in something.
Yeah.
You need to believe that this is real, and we need to help you be freed of whatever this affliction is. And
Right.
most of the time, it's not a demonic possession. It could be like you mentioned, like that. You ever heard of the Hat Man? The shadow
Right.
figures, the,
Just yeah.
things like that. Those appear to people a lot. They'll see a figure. Now, the figure won't do anything. It won't say anything. It'll just appear, and then it'll disappear. And it may not happen again. It may happen once. It may happen a couple of
Right.
times, and we may never know why. There are so many questions I would still like to have answers to. I don't know everything. I don't know answers to a lot of questions, but I'm not afraid to say, hey, that's a good question. I don't know. I'm still learning. I don't care whether you've been doing this 5 months or 50 years. We can learn from one another. No one of us
Exactly.
is any better than anybody else. Just
Right. Well,
maybe
the
someone
whole
like
thing
me
is
has a little more knowledge. That's all.
right. It's just a continuing learning experience.
It is. And it's a
And
lifetime of learning. You're not going to learn it in
exactly.
3 years watching television shows. You need to do the work and be involved in the work, and not go hunting around old schools or old sanatoriums or whatever, searching for ghosts. Some of these guys find more evidence, and I use that term loosely, in the first 5 minutes than they enter the building than I've got in my entire lifetime.
Yeah, I say the same
I
thing.
it's just funny, but it's entertaining. I will give them that.
It is. It's what it is. But I say the same thing. It's just I'm doing it for 20 years, and here I think I got two pieces of something that I could call possible evidence in 20 years, and every week they put out a video stating that
Well, I
they got
mean,
chased down by something.
I tell people, I said, look, always look for a natural explanation. Don't take the nuclear option and say I got a demon here because you've heard a noise or thought you heard a voice or something you can't explain. I mean, you need to take a very scientific approach and say,
Yeah,
all right,
and
what
mostly
is that?
everything can be explained.
Well, yeah. I mean, what is
Yeah.
that scratching noise? Do I have rodents? Do I have mice? Do I have squirrels? Do I have raccoons?
Right.
What is that? That voice I hear? Well, my neighbor's TV's too loud or something. I mean, you want to do all that first. Investigate that before you immediately jump to I've got a ghost or I've got a demon. I hate that word, to be honest with you, but
Yeah.
you don't have that issue because you would have had to let that in. There had to be an invite. It's like opening your front door and saying, hey, come on in. Well, what are you letting in? Oh, don't worry, Joe, it's just the spirit of a little girl or a little boy. I said, no, that's what it wants you to believe.
Right.
I said, because it wants to gain sympathy and your trust for you to say, oh, yeah, come on in. And
Right.
now
To
you've
let it
got
in.
a relationship with it. You established a relationship with the unknown. Even EVP sessions, I'm telling you, folks, are dangerous because of your own free will. It all has to do with two things: free will and intention. Okay? By your own free will, if you're walking around, an old abandoned church or hospital or something where a tragedy happened, and you're saying, is there anything here that wants to communicate with us? And they all say the same thing. I'm like, you just opened the door, because you are talking to the unknown, and in talking and asking questions, you are establishing or attempt to establish some kind of relationship, communication with the unknown. And that can
Hi,
be
Rachel.
extremely
Welcome.
dangerous.
Right.
And I'm not trying to scare everybody. I'm just saying that.
No, you're educating them
how,
on what can happen.
Well, that's what I do, folks. I try to educate what I know. There's a lot that I don't know still, but I'm learning. But when you're doing that, you don't know what you're asking for.
Right.
And,
Oddpulp says the thing is, my mother noticed the attitude of the toddler possessed was strange and acknowledged the presence and said, "You are not my name." And the toddler's eyes turned black and he looked at her. And then he says, acknowledging its presence helped to shoo off the dark figure. So up to where you don't acknowledge. Okay, so his question is, so to what point don't you acknowledge the attachment?
Well, I mean, it's a good question, but I wouldn't acknowledge it at all. Okay, some things like if a past loved one, you feel their presence, and maybe they're making the lights flicker or something like that, you might say, "Okay, Mom or Grandma, I know you're here with me. I appreciate it, but you're scaring the family, you're scaring the kids. Can you stop doing this?" And then it stops. But when you talk about something negative or something's eyes turn black, that's not good for a visit. That it's like, okay, you might acknowledge to yourself that, okay, there's something here, that's different than what I thought it was. But I remember Ed drilled it through my head. He's like, don't give these things recognition, because once you do that, now you've almost established that.
You give them power. Yeah.
And you don't want to do that. And I understand if, people don't know any different. I mean, it's not your fault. But that's like what I try to do, and a lot of my colleagues try to do, is educate people. I could sit here and tell you stories all night that would entertain everybody. I can do that, but I also like to educate folks, and if people don't buy what I'm selling, that's fine. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I don't have any enemy in the world that I know of, but, people get too upset.
Sunblessed says, I'm sure my daughter was possessed, and she had superhuman strength.
Okay, was possessed?
Yeah, she said that she thought her daughter was possessed.
Well,
you'd have to probably
give us a lot more information. Well, here's the thing about possession.
She thinks she was possessed for about a year.
And that's okay if you think that, but I'd have a million questions. Why did you think that? Now, someone that's possessed, you're going to have 3 or 4 things to look for. Number one is, the first thing you're going to look for is superhuman strength. Okay. It's like, the Maurice Dario case where he lifted a tractor with one arm. I mean, it's impossible. Humans can't do that. You're also going to look for a very aversion to religious objects or relics, holy water, crucifixes, things that are blessed. They're going to have an aversion to that. They're going to try to avoid that. They're going to have knowledge of things they couldn't possibly know. If you have a note in your pocket with writing on it, it could recite what you have on your note. I mean, because these things have the wisdom and knowledge of the ages. They know everything about you. They know your darkest secrets. So there are things, there are signs to look for, because that would be supernatural, which is beyond the natural, which is almost something divine has to be involved there. So if it was just that somebody seemed very strong, could have been adrenaline. I mean, there may be other reasons for it, but I wouldn't just jump to the possession. But hopefully, your daughter got the care that she needed, because let me tell you something. If somebody is actually possessed, it's not going away. It's just not going to leave you and say, I'm going to go on to this guy. If it's got a hold of you and got a hold of your soul, it's not going to let go. That's what it wants. So someone that is truly possessed can only be liberated through exorcism. And again, I said, this kind of stuff is very rare. But I need to know, how old was your daughter? What was she into? I mean, if she was older,
what did she get into? What caused
black magic or tarot cards? Any form of divination where, witchcraft, things like that, that, open that door. So there's so many, million questions I have. I hope that your daughter is fine now. But if she's still having issues, then I would seek, seek the help of, obviously, doctors. You want to do the medical and psychological evaluations first. Someone that is mentally unstable, that may have some kind of psychosis, schizophrenia, something like that, can also be demonically afflicted. It doesn't necessarily need to be either or. They could just have a psychological issue, or it could be both. That's why you need to investigate, but you need to know what you're doing. You're not going to learn this stuff from TV. You're going to learn it from, studying, to maybe taking courses, to listening to people like me or my colleagues that have been through this, and we're always willing to help. I mean, people have asked me to do classes, online classes, which I'm thinking about. I haven't done it yet. It's a big commitment. If anybody's interested in that, let me know. If we get a large enough interest in it, I could put some classes together, maybe with Chris, but just, be careful. You see something like that in a friend or family member, you're going to want to get them checked out, but you have to cross your T's and dot your I's. Go check, have them medically evaluated, maybe a psychological evaluation. I'm not saying they're crazy. It's just saying
you have to check off all the boxes first.
Yeah, right. Check all the boxes. You want to make sure you do that first. But like I said, when you're watching TV or movies, it's like people immediately take that nuclear option, I call it, and they jump right to the paranormal. It's like, well, paranormal is that which is beyond the five senses. And
of course, after the fact, Sunblessed, if you ever need any more information, Joe is more than willing to help you after the live.
Oh yeah.
So if
I'll
there's
give
any
you
other
my email address.
questions,
You can send me an email. I'm
right.
on Facebook. I just have a personal Facebook page. I also have a Facebook page for the Connecticut Paranormal Research Society, which is a group that I started back in 1993. But any cases that come through there, I filter through the foundation, because that's my main focus right now.
Right. Christina says she always wonders, when you hear of stories about mothers lifting a car to save a child, is that like a temporary possession or something?
Yeah, I would say they're possessed by love. I mean, love for your child.
It's adrenaline.
That's adrenaline. Yes, that's adrenaline. Believe me, if a car fell on one of my kids, or so, my kids are adults now. If a car fell on one of my kids, I'd get that thing off.
Yeah, that's the adrenaline.
That's adrenaline. Rush. There are stories like that. Yeah. What is it? I exercise my dog.
He's such a troublemaker.
I love you, Jeff. Dana, smack him.
What
for
about
me
your shadow chickens, though, Jeff? Can he take care of your shadow chickens?
Yeah. How were those chickens? Were they good? I watched the video. I was laughing my ass off.
I told me to have a t-shirt made of shadow chickens.
I want a mountain t-shirt or hoodie.
Yeah.
I love it. But Jeff does a lot of good work and research. He does. I mean, he's got a sense of humor like me, but he makes excellent points. And I just wish that there were more people like that. And a lot of these people that they hate these, I don't know if you call them debunkers. I hate that word too, but it's like, look, well, if you're going to put this out for the world to see and say that it's real, we're going to look at it and go, yeah, no. You don't.
Thank you.
You're not going to go cracking your toes and tell me that you're communicating with a ghost.
Oh, Lord, I know that's awful.
I'm not buying that for 1 minute.
He had to handle the shadow chickens himself. He's certified.
Yeah, well, Jeff, you probably can produce a certificate too.
Certified chicken wrangler.
Those looked good though. I wish I was closer to you. I would have stopped by and eat one. But I'm going to be in Ohio probably in a couple of months. I'll come out and see you.
Thank you, Joe.
They'll have me.
I know everybody loves. Sorry, I went to share. Oh, that's okay. I went to share. Thank you. I know I'm so excited, guys, because I'm almost to the 200 mark on my subs, and I'm just like really, really excited. I mean, I never thought I'd get this
Oh,
far up, and I'm almost
I
at
hope I don't
200.
cost you any after tonight.
So, oh, it's so exciting just to look. I'm like, oh my god, I was happy when I had 2 or 3, but yeah, we're getting there. I think it's like 18 away. So,
Well, I mean, and Jeff and I have a funny story. In all seriousness, when I was telling Jeff about the story where I was working on a case, I was probably in my early 20s, and we were in a house, and I remember we were in the kitchen, and we went from the kitchen to the living room, and then all of a sudden this 2-liter bottle of Coke comes flying around the corner. I mean, takes the corner, and it clips my nose. I actually had a bloody nose, and it smashes up against the wall. And then we heard this ruckus going in the kitchen. Within seconds, we run back out there, and all the chairs were stacked on top of the table, and all the cabinets were open. And this was the same house where I was picked up and thrown across the room. And I was 350 pounds at the time. And I was thrown about 12 feet into the wall. I remember I hit my right shoulder. And people were like, oh, weren't you scared? I'm like, I'm human. It's a natural human emotion to be scared. I was scared. Of course I was. But I was more pissed off than scared at that point. And I said, you got to be able to. How many people can take a hit like that and stand up and say, is that all you got? And I said a few other expletives, which I won't mention here.
Yeah, I would have said, what the F?
I was MFing it all, I was pissed, but
it's normal. Yeah, the fright is first, but then the anger comes out, and you're like, what the?
Well, I was angry. I'm like, how many people could actually wrap their head around something like that if that happened to you? I mean, I've asked people that have applied to the foundation. That's why they don't let me in the interview process too much, because I don't let many people in. But I gave that Jeff. I think it was on yours. Jeff had me sit in on one of his, and Jeff's like, Joe, do you have any questions? I'm like, well, I have a scenario to give you. And it was a very nice lady. She was a very nice lady, but she was just what I call a paranormal enthusiast. She wasn't really an investigator. She's just like to go around cemeteries and take pictures, which is fine. That's how I started.
Right.
But I gave her a scenario like that. I told her about that. I said, well, what if you were on a case and all of a sudden something come flying at you and hit you in the face, or you got picked up and thrown across the room by unseen force? And I remember she's like, I said to her, what do you think you would do? How would you think you would react? I said, I know it's very hypothetical. And she's like, well, I wouldn't run. And I said, okay. I said, I got to be honest with you. I don't think you're being honest with me. I think you're just telling me what I want to hear. I said, because your natural human instinct is to hightail it out of there.
Yes, it is.
And until you can wrap your head around what just happened in there. Now I said, if you had told me that, then I would believe it. So I wasn't trying to, be rude or anything. I was just trying to say, these are scenarios that have happened to me. I said, and was I scared? Absolutely. But I didn't run. I said, think about it. If you're a family, if you've got a home that you feel has a presence in it, and you call in a team, me or Jeff or whoever, and that team comes in and witnesses something and they grab their equipment and run, now the family's like, oh my God. Or even worse, you tell them that you have a portal in your house where demons come through it, and I'm in over my head, I can't help you. And I'm like, now you can't put the shit back in the horse. How many times I've had to go to people's homes and talk them back off the ledge. And I say, well, Joe, why did ABC Paranormal come out here and tell me I had a demon here? I said, you don't have a demon here. Let's try and resolve this naturally. Let's see if there's a natural explanation for this. Why are your toys going off? I said, okay, well, here's a simple experiment. Take the batteries out of the toys. If they still go off with the batteries not in it, now I'm going to be impressed. I said,
your ultimate fan just joined.
Who's that?
Your ultimate fan.
Who's that, Jeff? What do you take a high?
Dana. Oh. Hi, Dana.
Oh, hi, Dana. Yeah, control Jeff, please. Control Jeff. Jeff doesn't want me on the show anymore. I said, when are you going to have me back on? No, yeah, we'll have you back on. That was 3 years ago.
Oh, Jeff, bad boy.
I'm teasing
Jeff's
him.
busy.
I'm teasing him. I'm totally kidding. No, but seriously, Jeff does good work. I like some of the guys like Side Eye Guy and and Mythos. I mean, these guys actually do good work, and they're not
Yes, they
trying to just
do.
say you're a liar. I mean, I guess some of them do, but I'm like, all right, well, did you try X, Y, and Z first? No, because that doesn't get ratings or likes or followers, which eventually turns into monetizing your channel. I get it. I understand how that works.
Right.
But I have something called integrity. And my integrity is not for sale. I don't care how much money I could make. I'm not going to put bullshit out on the internet. You
Right.
know, and I'm sorry, that's just me. If you feel differently, that's fine.
Well, no,
But
that's
I'm
why I
not.
like the debunkers, because they are, I call them the paranormal police, because they're out there to expose the fakers and educate the community and the public that, listen, what you're watching here isn't real.
Yeah.
And this is why they do it. And so that, and it has had an effect, because you notice that there aren't that many of them putting out too many of these videos that often. And it's
Well,
affecting
forbid you
them.
say something about it, then these people with their followers start attacking each other.
Oh, they're brutal.
Because, well, I mean, I get it. I don't engage in that stuff, and I'm like, look, I know what I'm doing. I've been doing this a long time, and I know this is bullshit. But I'm not going to go out and publicly say it, because then I'll have people sending me nasty grams and stuff. And I'm like, I can't
You just get
believe
rid of
that.
it.
I can't believe that these people actually believe in things like the tapping method and stuff. I'm like, are you friggin' kidding me?
So you've been keeping
I'm
track
like,
of that, have you?
and you know what I hate about that is you're messing with people's lives and emotions.
Yeah.
You're misrepresenting, saying that this is your lost, long past grandma coming to communicate with you. That should be criminal, because now you're messing with people's emotions and their lives, and
Right.
you're full of shit, and you're doing it just for money and for TV ratings. And I'm not all about
Exactly.
that. I'm not
I always
about
call
that
it
at
the
all.
toe thumpers. Not for nothing. I can do that. I can
Jeff
thump my
told
toe.
me Jeff told me I have a face for radio, so
Face
that's
for
why
radio.
I
And
have a
I
face
agree.
for
Yes,
radio.
Carla. I'm not. That's it. We're not doing it for money. Yes, it's nice when you can become monetized, because the donation stuff does help with running the show. Better equipment. Other things that would go right back into the show itself. But same thing. She's doing it because she loves people. She loves sharing what she does. And
And there's
same
nothing
me.
wrong with that.
Yeah, I like doing it because I enjoy getting out here, talking with everybody, meeting everybody, sharing experiences. And my big thing is the education. I want people to get an education off of what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
If even if it's not learning from me, they're learning from the guests. And I think it's
Like I said,
important.
I have no problem with people having YouTube channels, and I have a problem with people that do this and say that this bullshit is real. And I have a problem with them not, disrespecting spirits too. I mean,
Yeah.
look, spirits are just, you know, were once people if they walked the earth. Don't show them the same respect that you would someone standing in front of you. But don't do this. I know why they're doing it. Likes, followers, money.
Yeah.
I get, and it's not illegal, but I believe it's immoral to do this and have people believe your BS. That's a person, in my opinion, that has no integrity. And like I've said, I pride myself on my integrity, and I'm not going to lie about anything. Why would I do that? I was at a lecture about 20 years ago. I remember this. There was a gentleman in the audience. I showed a picture on the screen. It was a photograph, and the gentleman pipes up. He's like, "Well, wait a minute." He goes, "I'm a photographer. I've been a photographer for 25 years, and I can tell that picture has been manipulated." And I was lecturing with my friend, and my friend, kind of a hothead. I looked over him. I said, "I got this." I put my hand up. I said, "I got this." So I said, "Sir, well, first of all, thank you for the compliment, because I took the photograph." And I said, "Yes, I know there's software out there that can manipulate. Even 20 years ago, there was probably stuff." I said, "But I don't know how to do that. And why would I do that? I'm an hour from home. I'm away from my wife and young children. You're here for free tonight," because this was a library. Libraries don't charge their patrons. I
Right.
think we're actually doing the lectures for free at that point. Now I do charge a nominal fee because it costs me money to do these. But
You got to travel and
I said to him, I said, "What possible reason can you think of that I have to come here and lie to you and pull the wool over your eyes.
Right.
I said, really? And then other people started getting on the guy, like, shut up. I said, no, leave him alone. He's entitled to ask a question. I said, I don't mind people asking tough questions, and I may or may not know the answer, but don't be disrespectful.
Right.
Don't be disrespectful to me. Don't be disrespectful to you guys. There's a lot of people out here probably watching now that are good people trying to do good work to help people. And that is fantastic. That's great. I welcome that. But, the people who I'm talking about know who they are. The people that,
Right.
put out, I said, look, just put a disclaimer and say, hey, this is for entertainment purposes only. Enjoy. And that's fine. But don't say, whoa, you got a demon attack me. Look, I got a scratch on my arm. I'm like, Jesus, are you kidding me? You just walked by a rusty nail.
Right. That's about it. Dana says that, yes, we're talking about merch, and Dana says that you're working on merch too, but you never call her.
I know, Dana. I know I owe you a call. I know I call her. I'll explain when I do call you. You'll understand. But she has I Love Joe Frankie merch.
For you, Dana.
She has I Love Joe Frankie merch that we sell.
Well, you gotta call her to get it moving.
I will, dear. I know you're right. You got me dead to rights. I've had a lot going on personally in my life. That I've been dealing with some health issues, unfortunately. But I'm still here. I'm still vertical. People
still working on it. Still working.
Somebody asked me, was it you that asked me, Laura, if I still do cases? Somebody did.
Hey, but we were going to get to that part. Yeah. Do you still?
Well, I mean, I do. Yes. The short answer is yes. However, I have to be careful because, how do I say this? When you're going on a case, you don't really know what you're getting into. It could be Casper the Friendly Ghost. It could be nothing. It could be Satan himself. But when you go on a case, or if you're called into a case, you got to make sure that you're in a state of grace. You got to make sure that you're protected. All right. And, for me, I would go to confession and receive absolution. You want to be free of sin, and that's what we call being in the state of grace. Now maybe some people may think that's over the top, but if you've seen what I've seen, you'd understand. So if my health if I'm not feeling well, I have to be smart about it. And my wife is all over me on some of this stuff. I had a case 2 years ago outside Albany. I started to tell you before the show. It was we were expecting it to be worse than it was. It actually turned out to be. It was a double homicide case in the house. A wife and child were stabbed to death by a family member. It was horrible, but the family was concerned that something diabolical caused this and caused their family member to do this. And they were afraid that now that, he had gone to prison, the wife and 5-year-old passed away, the 2-year-old survived and is alive and doing well now with family. But their concern was that there was something in or around the home that that infiltrated this family member. And I immediately was thinking about ritualistic stuff, witchcraft, Santeria, things like that. We found no evidence of that there, but however, the house had been cleaned out and all the stuff was shoved in the garage. There were a couple of pieces of furniture. But that case was probably one of the most horrific cases I worked on, not because of what we experienced, but because of what happened there. Because there was still blood there was a bloody handprint on the doorknob, which looked like a child's handprint. So, and I'm sorry to bring this up. This is very sad, but the family called us in because the family wanted to either rent and or sell the house. And they were concerned that if there was something inhabiting that house, they didn't want someone else to go through that. So we went out there. I was out there for 5 days on my own dime. Father Ken flew in from Sacramento on his own dime to help this family. We spent 5 days there. What we did experience there, and it's very sad, but it turned out to be a beautiful ending. The spirit of the mother was still there. She had remained earthbound, and she was terrified. She was looking for her children. She didn't know what happened to her children. Okay. And so what we, in the 5 days, we figured out that, we helped her. And we said, listen, your son is on the other side waiting for you. You need to go to him. Your other son is doing fine. He's with family. He's fine. And then the person that did this terrible deed will never hurt you again. He's gone away for the rest of his life. So, so if you compare the first day we walked in to the day that we left, the whole atmosphere in the house changed. Meanwhile, one thing the family did is they had all the doors and windows shut, the windows and the drapes and the shades were drawn. I said, no, open everything up. This was summertime. This was June of 22. I said, open up the windows. Just open everything up. Let the sunlight in. And then we did a whole report for them. It was like a 6-page report. And at the end of the report, I put recommendations to the family based on our findings. Now, we did have equipment. I have an old Gauss meter that reads an electromagnetic meter, EMF fields. And in one area of the house, the thing went off the charts. Okay? But the further away you got from this area of the house, it showed 0. Well,
hi, Antone, welcome.
We looking for natural explanation. Where we were getting off the charts EMF was the corner of the house where the secondary power lines came in, and the neutral was broken. So I noticed that because I was a safety professional for many years, and I know a little bit about electricity and how it works. So one of my recommendations was call your local power company and ask them to come out here and check the outside of the house. I said, they won't charge you for that. They shouldn't. I said, then what I would do is contact an electrician. It might cost you a couple $100, but have your electrician go through the inside, check all the polarity, check everything, make sure there's no issues there. Okay. They also had a mold issue. It was a very old house. In the basement, it was one of those, half dirt floor kind of things. The house is built in 1800 and something. And it was right near a lake too. So,
you get a lot of mold, mildew. Yeah.
Yeah. And I said, I would have this checked environmentally, because long exposures to mold can cause issues, can cause illnesses, but, I certainly wasn't saying that's what caused this, but, I gave them recommendations based on what we found, so I didn't find any demons lurking in the closet, nothing like that. Nothing like that.
Right.
But I believe in my heart and soul that we helped this woman pass over, and she was reunited with her child. So it turned out to be a beautiful, beautiful story in that regard.
Right. Great ending.
The family was so appreciative. I said, look, this is what I recommend you do. I also recommended, hire a professional company to come in and clean the home from stem to stern because there was still blood splatter. That I said, who cleaned the crime scene up? And they said they did. The family did. I said, well, you did a great job, but you see where some of it was missed. There was still some blood splatters and stuff. So that got me because you actually heard what happened, but now you're seeing.
Yeah, and then you see it. Yeah, that's.
So I said, hire a company to do that. I said, then what I would do if you're looking to sell the home, spend a little money, have the floors refinished, and have the whole place with a nice fresh coat of paint. Okay.
Right.
Father came in. We prayed in the house. He said prayers in the house. We blessed everything. I took a St. Benedict and St. Michael medals that were blessed and buried them at all 4 points of the home. Okay. And just buried them in the ground about, 6 inches, 8 inches down.
Right.
And when we left, the whole atmosphere felt much different. And, didn't sense any evil presence there or anything. And that's what because the family was very religious, and they were afraid that if they sold the house and something would happen with the new owners or new tenants.
Yeah.
So, I'm just trying to give you an example of something that was horrific that turned out to be, I guess if you can call it a good story, but we were able to reunite them.
Odd has he says, crazy theory. What if a shadow, people, or demons are the shadows of those who have lingered, a race from before humankind, refused to leave, and now waiting to attach to newborn bodies?
I don't believe
interesting.
It is an interesting question. Certainly not one I've gotten before, but these negative entities, demonic entities, you call them, they can't just attach to you. They need to be conjured in some way, and they needed to be invited in. You know,
Right.
And it doesn't have to necessarily be by that person. It could be a generational thing. You know, I think actually the case I was talking about earlier with the woman that was, you know, with the two pupils, her mother and her grandmother before her were into witchcraft and black magic and stuff like that. So it could be a generational curse.
Could be.
You
Yes,
know,
yes, sunblast. Carbon monoxide needs to be tested as well.
everything. Yeah.
All
That
of
was
that. Yeah.
my recommendation. I had, I don't know, I had about 6 or 8 recommendations, but really none of them had to do with the paranormal. They were just,
Right.
you
And
know,
yes, mold does
recommendations
have a
about the
nasty
house.
side effect.
Yeah.
Especially different degrees of mold. The black mold, the white mold, very, very bad for you to ingest any of that through, you know, just breathing.
Yeah.
That can cause
And,
some
you know,
serious health issues.
going back to the dark figures and dark shadows, it's like, you know, you got to figure if you're seeing that, then you got to figure out what they are and why they're there. You know, it's like when people come to me with their issues, I'll say, okay, I know what's happening because you told me that, but let's find out why it's happening so we can put a stop to it.
Right.
You know, and then, you know, you do a thorough investigation, and one question may lead to 10 more. I tell people right off the bat, I said, listen, I'm not trying to be a jerk here, but I'm going to ask you some very personal questions. And I said, I need you to be honest with me. I'm not asking them, you know, because I want to, embarrass you. I said, but I need to know. And those questions will be like, have you or anybody in your family been physically or sexually abused, or your drug or alcohol addiction? You know, those are things that people don't want to talk about. And I get it. But I'm like, if you're coming to me or coming to us, our foundation, for help, but then, you know, when you start asking questions like that, they clam up and then you never hear from them again. So then you start thinking about what was their true motive? I mean, were they really, you know, thinking that they had a problem? Because, like, if you actually have a problem, a paranormal affliction, and you're desperate for help, you'll do anything someone asks you to do. You want to be rid of this. You want to be free of this. But, you know, some people think it's cool and it's funny and it's cute, and it's not. It's not, you know, and that's why I don't like a lot what I see on TV and stuff, because they kind of make a mockery of what I've done my entire adult life.
Well, yeah, and that's what they are doing.
Yeah, and I don't appreciate that, because there are real people out there that have suffered and are suffering. And my only hope is that those people find a team or a group like ours, we're not the only ones, that can actually provide them with some help and guidance and understanding, and say, Joe, what is happening in my home? I don't understand why this or this is happening. And there may be a simple explanation for it. You may not. The last thing I tell people, the last thing you need is a full-blown investigation. I said, I don't load up the mystery machine with tons of equipment, cameras and computers. That's not necessary. What I do is, if I feel that it's necessary that I visit the home or business, what have you, I'll go over and just sit at their table with them and have coffee or whatever, and ask them these questions, and my tape recorder going, I'll write stuff down, you know, and I'm looking for a pattern, and I'll interview all the family members, you know, because, you know, you'll have a husband and wife, and the wife will be telling me all this stuff she experiences in the house, and the husband will be like, I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
Nothing happens to me. I said, well,
that
doesn't mean that she's not experiencing it, because sometimes people are
right.
targeted individually. You know, you and I be sitting next to each other, and you see a dark shadow in the room that's moving, and I'm like, I don't see anything. That's because it was meant for you.
Right.
You know, but you got to be very methodical.
You have to,
but you know, you got to be suspicious of people that
first.
You know.
Right.
You have to. I mean, I've been in homes where I've looked around. They showed me around. I look on the dresser, and there's a bunch of medication bottles, and I'll try to make a mental note of what they were, and you go back and look and say, oh, could cause hallucinations, you know, things like that. So a lot of personal questions.
More than anything, like I said, just one of the baseline is the high EMF. You know, you could have, you know, one of those fancy new microwaves, and they could be just pumping out, you know, the EMF, and that's affecting you.
I don't care for a lot of this equipment out there. Jeff knows I hate cat balls. They're just toys.
Oh well, they don't make any sense to me at all.
They mean, and I know I'm gonna get hate mail over this, but I don't. You know, EMF, just because you have a REM pod sitting on a bed and it's been there for 3 hours and been quiet, doesn't mean that if it goes off that a ghost just sat down on the bed. Okay.
Right.
What you need to do, and to my knowledge, no one has even suggested this, but I always have. If you're going into a home and you do need to do a thorough investigation, the first thing I'm going to do is ask the homeowner, can we turn the main power off so we got no juice flowing through the house?
Right.
I said, now you don't do it. You ask them to do it. I said, just for 20 minutes or so, it's not going to spoil any food. Would you be willing to turn the main off so I've got nothing flow? Because I don't know if you got unshielded wiring that rats have chewed through.
Exactly.
I mean, so you do that. Then you shut off your cell phones and you shut off your walkie-talkies and all that stuff. Any electronic device could make that go off.
Yes.
And then finally I say, where do we live? We live on planet Earth. Well, what is the Earth? It's one big magnet. It's the magnetic field around the Earth that keeps us from burning up under the solar radiation.
Exactly.
The Earth's core is just, the Earth is just one big magnet. So just because your EMF spikes in a corner of the room doesn't mean there's a ghost there. I mean, there may be, but it's
but
not
I really don't
scientifically
use
proven.
it for that. Like myself, I use it just to check what the house itself is putting.
Well, yeah, you want to take a baseline.
Even though, even just like you said, you shut down everything in the house and it's all in good, but we're in the time period where technology, all this stuff is running underground now.
Yeah.
So even though you might shut down the property, you still have live, a conduit running underneath the front lawn.
You could have water veins going under the house. Water.
Yeah, anything. So it's really
there's a lot of things you got to look into, but
those are the things you have to just check off.
Exactly. So you guys are doing it the right way. But if you're doing an investigation, if you haven't thought of this, ask them, would you mind shutting the main power off so we've got no electrical interference whatsoever?
Right.
And then take your cell phones and leave them in the car or something. Shut them off, your walkie-talkies, just for a while to get your baseline reading. Now you go through the house, get your baseline readings with no power flowing. All right. Now your equipment starts to go off. I'm going to start scratching my head saying, okay. There's still maybe
what is running? They would be my first thought. Okay, what is still running?
There still may be something battery operated in the house.
Right.
You don't automatically want to leap to it's a ghost. But
right, because that's usually not what it is.
Right. And
right.
And the thing is, I've brought so much relief to families when you're able to debunk things.
Yeah.
And like I told you that story with the woman, she felt so bad that she goes, I wasted your time. I'm like, no. If you feel better, if you're happy, you and your daughter are fine now, I did my job. And I said, that's what I do. And this had to have been 20 years ago.
Right. Well, even if you did go in and you said, okay, well, look, we found out you have mold here, or you've got high EMF radiating from some kind of product in the home. So you did do them a service, because now they can get the right people in, check everything out, make the house safe for them. So that's not a waste of time.
No, it's not. And when the foundation finishes a case, sees it to completion, we will provide the client with a report.
And Jeff's to the contractors and adds that to the paranormal. I do have, that's where it helps me out, because I do have contracting background.
That's a good point though, Jeff.
Yeah, I grew up in a family.
If you're a contractor,
stuff like that, so that we do know what to look for. I mean, my father's an electrician, so these are things.
Well, there you go. So
yeah.
ask your dad about some of the stuff I've said. I'm sure he'll agree. I mean,
right. Oh yeah.
I'm not an electrician, but I was a safety professional for many years.
And my husband does that as well through his job. He has to go through OSHA guidelines, so there's stuff that you have to go through. So that helps me when I'm doing an investigation. I know what to look for.
It's so gratifying personally for me, and I'm sure everyone can agree, to leave a home and know that you've brought some peace of mind to a person or their family, and we say we figured out what it was, and it's not a demon, it's not a ghost, or even if it is a ghost, if it's a ghost that came to visit, but it's a spirit of a past loved one that maybe you had a significant event in your life, good, bad, or indifferent. Maybe you had a newborn baby born and they've come to visit. Or maybe you're in a serious state of depression or something. You're going through a divorce or a job loss or financial stress. They come to offer us comfort. But again, that's where your faith comes in. It's like, well, Joe, I smell I smell lavender. That was my mother's. I say lavender because that was Lorraine's favorite scent. You know, she said, well, that's a sign. Believe me, because and Ed said this to my wife once. Uh, my wife lost a lot of family members too young. Her parents, a couple of brothers, and whenever my wife sees a rainbow, she smiles, and sometimes she'll get choked up, and she's like, "I know that's a sign from them telling me that everything they're fine," you know. And Ed Warren said to her one day, we're in the car, that had been 30 years ago. I remember he turned around and he says, Laurel, if you believe that that's a sign from your loved ones, then it is. Who is going to prove you wrong? And who wants to be that asshole that says, no, it's not? I mean, no.
Right.
If you take that as a sign, a personal sign, you know, like if you smell a scent, like that's my mother's perfume. And I know I don't have that perfume in the house. I think that's my mother. I said, well, then it probably is. And that's going
Right.
to make that person feel so much better
So much better.
that
Yeah.
they're around, that they're with you. They're with you. That at least my faith tells me that. You know.
Sunblessed actually has a comment. It says, a one room in my house feels like someone watches you and the bulbs and the sockets always blow. All right. First
Okay.
thing I want to ask is,
Yeah, check it out.
do you end up having power surges in your area or in your home that could cause that issue? Because
Yeah,
we've had that
I
issue.
would have that looked into professionally by an electrician.
Right.
There may
Because
be
here
an
she
issue.
also
Yeah.
says that nobody stays in there. It has a smell, and it's sometimes awful. But I haven't checked EMF. I had the electric tested. Okay, yeah, you would just have to have actually the whole place tested, because once you rule that out, then okay, maybe it's something else.
Yeah, I mean, can you identify the smell? Is it
Right.
a floral smell, or is it like rotting flesh, you know, or meat gone bad, or
Right. Or is it
rotting
just
egg?
like a hot, like burning rubber or plastic
I mean,
odor?
this stuff does happen. You
Yeah.
know, folks, it does happen, but it doesn't necessarily mean you got something evil there.
Right.
You know, if you had something evil, eventually it's going to manifest because it wants to scare you. It wants to unnerve you. You know, so I mean, I wouldn't be concerned until you checked all the boxes, like you said. Have it checked
Right.
out electrically. Not only the electrical system itself, but check out the actual light fixtures.
Right.
Maybe there's a short in one of them, and it's looping to another one. I mean, there's other
So
things
many
you can look
things.
for. There's many
Right.
things that you can look for naturally. Change the light fixtures. Just change them out, even if they work. Just change them and see if it happens again with a new fixture. Just make sure it's.
Jeff says,
properly
Jeff says
grounded and all
ladybug.
that.
Joe knows what I mean.
Yes, I do. I'll show you. I don't know if you guys can see this.
There it is.
All right, so my daughter wrote a children's book. It's actually a book for anybody called "The Ladybug Who Lived on a Four-Leaf Clover," and she wrote that book as a way of dealing with her grief when my mom passed away. So my mom, they used to love ladybugs and look for ladybugs when my girls were young, and the four-leaf clover symbolizes my mother's Irish heritage because she was very proud of her Irish heritage. Her maiden name was Quinn.
Right.
And she'd been to Ireland a few times, and she loved it. So she wrote a book, and her twin sister illustrated the book. It could be found on Amazon. You can look it up if you like. Jeff bought like 3 of them. Thanks, Jeff, and Dana. But it's called "The Ladybug That Lived on a Four-Leaf Clover," and my daughter, and she's actually on her second book now, but she goes around to schools and nursery school centers and public libraries. Her book is in Barnes and Noble, and what she does is she reads to the children. And the only thing that she ran into a problem once or twice is the word heaven is in the book. And you get a teacher here or there that gets offended by that. It's like, look, okay, I don't think it's a big deal, but if you don't like it, then don't listen. But the book was written as a way for my children to deal with their grief. They've never lost a loved one. My wife's parents and my dad passed many, many years ago before the kids were born. I'm talking like 30 plus years ago. My kids are 25, the girls, and my son's going to be 29 this month. So that was their way of dealing with the grief. So one day my daughter just started typing notes in her phone, which turned into a script. And then, I helped her edit it. We went through many edits and everything. And then we gave the story to her sister, who illustrated the book. Never illustrated a book before, but she's very artistic. So she bought a software program and just, made the illustrations, and found an editor, not an editor, what am I looking for? Publisher.
Right.
I had a brain fart. A publisher that took on the book, and a very small publisher. She only had a few authors, but she sold I think she wrote the book 2 years ago. She sold like 10,000 copies, which is amazing.
Wonderful.
Her publisher is blown away. She's like,
Wonderful.
she goes, my writers have.
Story.
It is a great story. I'm not, I mean, obviously, I want everybody to go out and buy the book. We don't have to. I'm just saying, if you want to look it up, you could look up EmilyFrankieAuthor.com. She has a website. Shameless plug. But it's a beautiful story, but it has to deal with death. And my kids are all fascinated by my work. And, I don't really involve them in cases, and because I want to be a dad. I'm protective because I know what I went through.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, you're not old enough. You're not old enough. I'm like, well, they're like, Dad, you started when you were 18. So
yeah,
Dad,
my son just rolls his eyes and goes, yeah, Mom, okay.
Times have changed now. I mean, some of the cases that I get involved in, I would never want my kids around.
I don't believe in bringing kids and getting them involved, because even when they're younger, I mean, they're more open. And I've heard, terrible stories where people have brought their children to investigations.
Oh no!
And then they come home with like an attachment or something goes
wrong.
No,
never do that, and never, ever, ever, folks. I'm telling you, never investigate your own house.
Exactly. I don't investigate my own house, and I've got stuff that goes on here.
I had someone from our team send me a tape once, and it was a woman going around her house, and then I hear this little voice say, "Mommy, what are you doing?" She had her 5-year-old daughter in their own house, investigating, talking to the unknown.
Oh, wow. No.
But she just got so infatuated that she wouldn't stop doing this, and she's doing it. I said, you're putting yourself and your children in danger.
Hi, Giselle. Right.
So.
Yeah, I see. That's another thing. They're not realizing that, what you're doing is something serious, and the last thing you do is bring your kids along.
No,
I've had a niece and a nephew that that are young. Oh, can we come with you? No, you cannot come with me. I said, we're not playing around here. This is real. And
I mean, they come to my lectures with me. My daughters help me with the computer and everything. They help me with the technical stuff. They help me with the social media stuff. My daughter's making a website for me because I don't know what I'm doing. But I try to keep them at arm's length. And believe me, I have stuff that goes on in my house because of the cases I've worked on. And I remember something happened years ago, and I said out loud, I said, if you touch my wife or any of my children, I will kill myself and come after you in the afterlife.
Oh, there you go.
Pissed. I was so pissed. So thank God my family hasn't been affected by my work, but I do have things that go on in my house. I get that question a lot. Does anything happen in your house? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, see, we inherited ours. Ours came
I don't give it any recognition. I just say, hey, you want to hang around? Do the laundry. Throw a load of laundry in, but, I joke, but I'm like, get the F out of here. You're not welcome here. You have no permission to be here. Get lost.
I mean, we haven't had any problems. Actually, it's been a long time since we've had anything go on here, but my son's girlfriend just had a surgery on her finger. Oh. And she
wasn't this one, was it?
At night. No, it was a pointer finger. And she had ice pack on it during the night. And what woke her up was somebody was squeezing the ice pack.
Ooh.
And I said, okay. I said, well, you know who that is. I said, he was just checking on you to make sure you're all right. So you'll be fine.
Yeah. Don't.
But if I do have people, no, never. I was telling her, don't ever do that. When we first discovered that we had something going on here, I just, said, listen, thank you for being here. This is your home. We're going to take care of it. And thank you for watching over us and all of our belongings. And it's good. It's, I leave it at that. But then every now, like if I have people that stay over, And like if they sleep in our living room and I'll hear the next day, who the hell was in the attic walking around at 3:00 in the morning? I go, oh, don't worry about it. You're all right. That's all I say. You're all
Look,
right.
I mean, even if you have spirits, you live in a home, old house, new house, you can peacefully coexist. I
Yeah.
mean,
No, we
you might
haven't
have
had any.
someone that lived in the house for their whole life, maybe passed away in the house, and they're attached to the house. Spirits can be
Sure.
attached to a house. They can be attached to a car, a person. But why would you? My question would be, why would you want to stay here? Go on to a much better place. But they
Yeah.
have their own
Well,
free will. It's all about free will.
free will,
You
right?
know,
They just choose not to. Maybe, well,
They-
because they just don't want to give up this existence.
yes,
So they
or
just
for
want
other
to,
reasons, like they don't
yeah,
feel like they deserve to go on. Maybe they weren't that great of a person, and they fear going
that too.
downstairs
Yeah.
instead of upstairs. I'm like,
I mean,
look,
it's all speculation, but
yeah.
it's,
My religious beliefs tell me if you ask for forgiveness and you really mean it, you're genuine, you'll be forgiven.
right.
But some people that are really mean people, uh, like somebody like Hitler, for example, I'm sure he's downstairs shoveling coal. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
that's
sure he
where he
had
belongs.
the express train.
Yeah, I mean, people
I
like that.
said, I said once I saw a black figure looming above me, and I said, or you pay your share of the light or leave. That's right. Right.
Yeah, well, you're right. You got to take a
No
stand with these things.
freeloaders.
And I know I said you don't want to recognize it, but I would say, get the hell out of here. You're not welcome. You have no permission to be here. You know, get lost. And usually that's all it takes. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, usually that's all it takes, unless you've done something to attract it, like I said, divination, conjured it somehow.
Right.
But
Right.
I mean, you can move into a house. There may be a spirit there, and it might say, "Hey, what are you doing in my house?" I'm like, "Dude, it's my house now. You can
Oh,
stay
it's
here
like
if
I
you
said.
want, but you
Right.
got to
That's
help
pretty
with the
much what we said.
dishes."
Everything's good here as long as, said, like I said, there's been
Yeah,
nothing
you
that's
can
been,
peacefully coexist.
sure,
Yeah,
we haven't
I
had
mean,
any problems. We've had sightings of
it's
certain
not
things,
all
and I've
bad.
heard somebody call my name and all of that, but there's nothing that's been anything that I would consider worrisome. So
No,
it
well,
is
you
what it
can come
is,
to an understanding and just say aloud, listen, if you want to stay here, it's fine. Just don't manifest yourself. Don't flick the lights. Don't make anything that's going to scare anybody. I mean,
Right.
I had one case where I was convinced that it was this woman's grandmother who had passed away shortly before she gave birth, and her son, who was just a little baby, but she said my son would be looking and following something in his room, and he'd start crying, but he couldn't talk yet, so it wasn't like he could tell what it was. So through the investigation, and I never even went to the woman's house. Okay, this is what I meant earlier about not throwing all the equipment in the Scooby Doo mobile. It's not
Right.
necessary, So I talked to her on the phone a few times. I was scheduled to go over and meet with her and her husband, but her husband got called into work. And she's like, "Well, Joe, you could come over." I said, "No, I'm a big, scary, dumb, big animal. I'm not going to come over if your husband's not there." So you gotta realize there's an etiquette to this too. But
Oh
I said,
yeah, yeah.
let me give you some advice that I want you to try, and let's see if it works. So I said, let's recognize her as it is your grandmother, because that's what all the signs led to her being a grandmother that had passed. And I said to her, I said, just walk around the house and say aloud, Grandma, thank you for visiting, thank you for looking out for us, but you're scaring the child, and I don't mind if you stop in every once in a while, but don't flicker the lights, don't do this, don't do that. Well, she said, well, my grandmother was Polish and she didn't really speak English. She goes, should I say it in Polish? And I said, doesn't matter. She's going to understand you. I said, it doesn't matter. I said, but I want you to try that for a week or so and see if the activity stops. So a few weeks go by. I'm like, oh, geez, I haven't heard from her in a while. And this woman literally lives around the corner from me. But like I said, I never went to the house, never entered the house. And I sent her a text, and she's like, "Oh my God, Joe, I'm so sorry. We've just been so busy." But she goes, "Everything has stopped." She goes, "I don't know what you did, but it worked." I said, "I didn't do it, sweetie. You did it. You did it. I didn't do it. I just gave you some advice." She goes, but the lights aren't flickering anymore. My son's not seeing things. The dog's not hiding under the bed. I said, was it really Grim? I could never prove it. She appeared and said, yeah, it was me. Sorry.
Right, pretty much. Said, well, Giselle said she's had an experience.
My point is
with a loved one. So they do check in.
Yeah, my point is sometimes this is all it takes. And usually they'll give you some kind of sign that it's them.
Right.
Like a smell or something like that, like with the lavender. Because they don't want to scare you. Lorraine told me once, I remember, she's like, normally they'll visit you in your dreams because, you get up at 3 a.m. and you're all, you're rubbing the sleep from your eyes. You walk into the bathroom and all of a sudden, here's my long dead grandmother. It's going to freak you out. They don't want to scare you. Lorraine told me that a lot of times, people say, I dreamed of this, I dreamed of that. I'm like, yeah, I feel that that's a sign from them. They'll enter you, visit you in your dream state. So, but it all depends on your faith again. If you believe that, I mean, it's comforting to believe that you were visited in your dream. I haven't had a dream in a while about my mom. I'd like to. I believe she's around me, but I haven't seen her.
I have this
some people
all
are more
the time.
gifted. Yeah, I mean, some people are more gifted
dreams.
than
I
others.
have all kinds of dreams like that. It's
Yeah, those are beautiful dreams.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I used to have dreams of alligators biting at me. I don't know what that meant.
I'm telling you not to go to the zoo.
What else you got for me?
Joe says, are you sure it wasn't a portal? That's what Jeff wanted to say.
Yeah, it could have been. Everything's a portal these days.
Ridiculous.
You could have portals. There's portals everywhere. I'm sure there are. And a lot of times in some places, if there is a tear or a portal, these spirits don't stay there. They don't inhabit the space. They come and go. So that's why it's like, things may be quiet for a while, and then you may have something happen. So there's a lot to this investigating. It's
Well, Jeff, if you pee and you can't find a bathroom, you better put some Depends on, man, because you ain't gonna make it.
Jeff's got an I Love Joe Frankie sticker in his bathroom. I hope he didn't take it down. I love that one. They got shit with a bow and arrow.
Everybody experiences stuff through dreams.
And some dreams don't mean anything.
Right, absolutely. I do believe that. Yeah, we do get messages through dreams. It's very. That's actually in my family history. I do it. My father's done it. My grandmother. Where you do have the premonition dreams.
Yeah.
And we've done it our whole lives. And one of the scarier ones was my father had. He was dreaming that a baby was passing away. And he searched and searched in the dream, trying to find the child. And then when he woke up, he ran outside, realizing it was the neighbor's baby. But unfortunately, they seen the father running out of the house, doing CPR on the child. We couldn't save it. But that's my father was searching and searching, and he just didn't wake up in time to let them know. It was very sad.
This was a dream, though.
Yes, he was dreaming. Yeah, he was dreaming that he couldn't find the baby that was dying.
Ugh.
And then when he realized it was the neighbor's baby, he jumped out of bed, ran next door, and you see the father running outside with the baby in his arms. So it was too late.
Wow.
We have it runs in our family, so it's kind of freaky at times, but after 50 something years, you get used to it. So it's sometimes it's a blessing.
I mean, this stuff is second nature to me now. I mean, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't scare me. I respect the power that these things can have. You got to respect it. But you don't have to fear it. I've always said faith and fear cannot coexist. And what I mean by that is
never feared it.
No, faith and fear can't coexist, because if you think about that for a second, if you have faith and you're strong in your faith, who better to have in your corner? I mean, what do I have to fear? I've got nothing to fear, because,
Right.
matter of fact, a friend of mine, I don't know where I heard this, I'm trying to remember, but he said actually, I think it was at St. Thomas, St. John Vianney or something. The devil came to him and then said something like, "Aren't you afraid of me?"
Oh my goodness.
And St. John Vianney said, "No, you're afraid of me because I'm a baptized Christian." So I'm sorry if I screwed that story up, but I believe that. My faith tells me, it's like, well, look, if I believe in God and I'm a child of God, I know the devil hates me because of that, but I shouldn't fear him.
Right.
Because,
That's his problem, not mine.
Yeah, it's like, well, too bad. He wants my soul. He wants your soul. He wants all of our souls, but no one is going to give up. That's why God gives us free will. He wants us to choose him. God will not meddle in free will. Because people ask me all the time, well, why does all this stuff happen? Why are there wars going on in the world with people and babies and women and children being killed? I said,
free will.
It's free will. I said, God's not going to meddle in that. And it's not our job to question God. His will be done.
Pretty much.
That's
Giselle. Even though your mom had the premonition dreams, it could skip a generation. So if you don't have them, your children might have them.
That can definitely happen. People have premonition dreams of things that actually did happen.
Yeah.
And that's not that's not divination. It's like that's a precognition. Maybe it's a warning. Maybe it's a warning or something.
Right.
But it's not you conjuring or actively seeking.
No. It's It's just.
I tell you, I joke around with some of my psychic friends. I'm like, all right, prove to me you're psychic. Give me the Powerball numbers for Friday's drawing.
See, they can't do that, Joe.
No, it doesn't work that way. I know that. I'm
all
joking.
Based on energy, and balls don't. Those little plastic balls don't have energy. Okay, let's dig into this. What I'd like to know is, and I'm sure everybody else would like to know, seeing that you do work for the Warren Legacy Foundation, tell us what the legacy or the foundation does. What is the training that you do for people coming to you to become investigators? Because I mean, everybody hears Warren Legacy Foundation, but I guarantee you, not many people know what you guys do there.
Well, the foundation is made up of a diverse group of like-minded people, people that want to help others. They're basically volunteers. No one gets paid for this. And chairman, it's just a title. I mean, I'm just an elder now, and I try to, but we have a very selective interview process. If someone wants to be, anybody could apply to be a member, and you don't necessarily have to have paranormal experience. We're looking for people from all walks of life: doctors, nurses, lawyers, realtors, people that can offer help in other ways based on their life experience or based on their occupation. If we have a psychologist on staff that's a volunteer and they volunteer pro bono their time, and if we get a client, we'll have this psychologist sit in on the interview and maybe talk to the person individually and give us their professional take on it. So, we're just we're here to help people and educate where we can. We would never send out an investigator out on a case. Never go alone ever.
All right, thanks for joining, Giselle.
Always make sure people know where you are. And I'm not even talking about the paranormal. You go out and visit these old abandoned buildings. I'm more worried about you flowing through a rotted floorboard or have the ceiling come crashing. Or you could even have a homeless person or something living there that might attack you. So you got to think about your safety. I know I'm getting off topic, but always seek proper permission. And I learned that the hard way years and years ago. When I would go into like cemeteries just to take photographs. Well, most cemeteries that I know of close at dusk. And then the police show up, and the police usually just say, "All right, you can't be in here," and they kick you out. But always seek permission. If you want to do that, contact the cemetery, or if you can't get
because they usually say yes as long as you're not there to cause any harm.
We're trying to educate. I mean, but we're basically carrying on the legacy of what Lorraine and Ed started. They were kind of the pioneers in this field. Certainly weren't the only ones, but they started their society back in 1952. Ed and Lorraine were artists in their younger
Hey,
days.
thanks for joining Odd. I know it's 2:00 in the morning where Odd is. So pleasant dreams.
Oh, that's maybe in Australia or somewhere over across the pond.
Yep, across the pond somewhere. Hi, Ian.
Yeah, I
Welcome,
mean,
welcome.
so we have a diverse group. We have regional directors
Right.
and assistant directors. We have people all over the world. However, we don't have a lot of members yet. We're still working on it. We're still building this foundation. It's going to take years to build it.
Oh, we should
If
do
people want to
Scotland.
get involved just to get
Scotland. I always want to go to
cases,
Scotland.
yeah, Scotland and Ireland.
Oh,
I'd love to visit some of the old castles. Yeah, that's on my
just needs to
bucket list.
talk to me. I love the Scottish
It's on my
accent.
bucket list. Yeah, but we want people that want to join for the right reasons. We don't want people just then we get people that get upset, and we've had this happen. People get upset like, oh, I've been a member for 2-3 years and I haven't been on a case yet. I'm like, well, first of all, we probably didn't have a case for you. I said, and secondly, if you're not chosen to go on a case, it's based on your experience and maybe
Right.
your geographical location. I mean, if I get a case in I don't know, say New Jersey, or up in Maine or somewhere, I'm going to be looking at people closer than I am. I still help with cases, but mine's more or less now as a consultant.
Right. Well,
I
some
will
of us
get.
is in Wales. Go ahead.
Oh well, I mean, I will get.
Lovely.
I will get directly involved in cases where I actually go there if I'm needed. But that's up to our directors. I tell them, I said, look, I'm not going to second guess you. If you need my
Right.
help, and I've told this to, even Jeff. Jeff was a member for many years. I say, look, I'm not going to step on your toes, and you don't need to look over your shoulder and ask my permission or ask me. You do what you got to do. If you need my help, I'm here for it. That's my job now. But if there's a case in Connecticut where I live, I'll take it on, and
Right.
look into it. But and we all have our different styles and approaches to things. And I could teach people mine, but if they want to develop their own, that's fine. Whatever works
Right.
for you. There's no cookie cutter approach to this, but you still want to hit all the same elements. You want to
Right.
ask
Like,
the
like
right
that's what I'm saying. Like the
question.
basic training. What is the
Yeah.
basic training that you teach?
So that's what we're working on now, to be honest with you, because we're talking about doing classes for our members and non-members, if people want to, doing classes that might be, I don't know, an hour long, 90 minutes. And, it might start with Paranormal 101. When I started, the first thing that I actually did with Ed and Lorraine was we went to, ironically, it's the cemetery where they're buried now. And we took what they called psychic photographs. And we went, it was a Sunday afternoon, I think. It was 2 o'clock in the afternoon, bright daylight. It was, why do ghosts only show up at night? That's not true. It's because we worked during the day, I guess. But and we took photographs, and
Right.
and then we would develop the photographs, because that was when we had Polaroid and 35 millimeter. It
Yeah.
was long before digital cameras. But we would develop the film and study and say, okay, you got some globules. All right, are these dust? Are they water vapor? Are they is it something electrical? Is it a bug? Bugs are
Right.
pretty distinct, but we would. That's how I would learn. It's through trial and error.
Right. And the only reason I'm
But
laughing is because everybody's commenting about your ceiling.
about my what?
Your ceiling, because the angle of your camera. They're
Oh,
saying that you must be proud of your ceiling. And
my screw. Well, most
so
people
Jeff is
comment
saying, make the ceiling
on my
beautiful.
girls
Hashtag make the
behind me.
ceiling beautiful.
Sorry, my
They're
camera's all
they're
screwed up.
teasing you. That's all.
Oh, I don't mind. I got a best sense of humor.
They're saying you have a
Most-
beautiful ceiling.
Most people comment on the girls back there.
The girl, he's surrounded by dolls.
Well, that's another thing is, I can tell you right now that God would not permit a human spirit to inhabit a doll. So these people that say, "Oh, this little girl spirit is in this doll," no, it's not.
Thank you, because
Now,
I don't go for
dolls and items can be manipulated through their energy, but a human spirit can't bench press a refrigerator. It doesn't work
Right.
that way. I mean, they could touch you, they could scratch you if they wanted to, but they can move pencils and stuff like that. But like I told you, when I was thrown across the room that night, I know that wasn't Casper the Friendly Ghost.
I don't think so.
That's something that had much darker, that had greater power.
Right.
You know? But yeah, this is kind of my Halloween room. I have my little girls, around. Ed taught me that he had a Halloween room, which was awesome, much better than mine. And matter of fact, the painting, I don't know if you can see it, the painting over my shoulder here up on the wall,
Okay.
that was Ed Warren's paintings from a long time ago.
Oh.
I think it was in the 70s. That was given to me by the family many years ago. I cherish that. And then I have a replica, Annabelle behind me. That's Hannibal. That's the
Right.
good twin sister to Annabelle. Now, Annabelle's still in the museum at their home. That's owned by their son-in-law and daughter. But that's Hannibal. I'll bring her to lectures sometimes with me, and people get creeped out. And I said, look, it's not Annabelle.
It's not Annabelle.
It's the good twin sister, but they still don't want to touch it. It's so funny.
Oh,
so I sometimes I don't bring it because I don't want to freak people out, and this kid's going to be there, especially like libraries. You never know what your audience is going to look like.
You brought up the museum. Now, do you know if there's any plans for it to ever be opened to the public again?
Good question, and my answer would be no, because I know that the town kind of shut that down. Where the house is, it's at the end of a cul-de-sac.
Right, I've seen that. Yeah.
After years of having events at the home, the neighbors kind of complained to the town because there's so many cars and people can't get in their driveways. And look, I understand that and I respect that. So I guess the town, I think Tony had told me once years ago that the town said they couldn't do it anymore. So they do, as far as I understand, he still does do private tours. You'd have to reach out to him directly. I'm not sure though, so don't quote me. But the museum itself is not open to the public, if that answers your question.
So there's no plans of either maybe relocating it or nothing like that?
That's a good question too. I know years ago I had conversations with Tony where he did want to find another home because I think the family eventually wants to sell the house.
Right.
Unless they've changed their minds. I haven't spoken to them in a little while, but you can't just take all those items and move it to a strip mall, next to Dairy Queen. I mean, it's got to be a proper location, and I don't know if he's still looking, but that's a hard thing to find.
Right.
I heard rumor of an old funeral home or something. I don't think that's a good idea, but there may come a time. I mean, I know they do some shows where they bring some of the artifacts to the public, and show the artifacts where the public can view them and take pictures with them and stuff like that. But I don't know if he has any plans on moving it still. He did mention that to me years ago after Lorraine passed away, but she's been gone, 5.5 years already.
Yeah, Jeff says that Tony allows big YouTubers and TV channels to investigate it.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't follow it, but if you reached out to him directly, you might be able to he may permit a private viewing. That's okay, I guess. But to have, they would have, 100 people in the house, because I've been there for these things. And I'm like, I'd have to step outside to change my mind. There's so many people in the house.
Well, I mean, it sounds like it's against kind of fire code, wouldn't you think?
Well, yeah. I mean, it wasn't safe in that regard, but to experience that, now I guess I take it for granted. I spent more time in that museum than I spent in my house sometimes, because Ed used to call me up. It'd be a Saturday or Sunday. Hey, kid, what are you doing? He always called me kid. Hey, kid, what are you doing today? And I'd say, oh, nothing, Ed. I'm going to cut the grass or whatever. I said, what do you need? He's like, yeah, why don't you come on down for a few hours? I want to go over some stuff with you. And this is how I learned. And, I was very close to him. And, so he'd bring me in his office, which was just, a little room off the museum. And he would show me some artifacts and say, this, what happened in this case? And he would tell me the story. And this is what we did. And, we brought this artifact back to the museum. There's so many things in that museum, and I'm sure Tony's added to it since then. Ed passed away, God, in 2006. But that's how I learned. So not only did they have the classes, but I had a lot of one-on-one stuff,
Right.
with them, and I'll cherish that forever, and I'll always be grateful to Judy and Tony, because Laurel and I, my wife and I, were on a very, very short list of people that they would allow to see Lorraine, especially as her health declined,
Right.
and I'll be forever grateful to them for that, because my wife was very close to Lorraine too, and I'm getting a little choked up talking about it because I do miss them. But
Sure you do.
it's hard. I mean, I've had some cases where I'd say, geez, Ed, Lorraine, show me the way. You're not here anymore for me to ask you directly, but give me some guidance on this one.
Yeah, guide you through it.
Inevitably, eventually, it all works out. But like I said, my mentors are gone now. If I need help, I'll reach out to Chris, or I'll reach out to John Zaffis,
Right.
my good friend, because he's got like a dozen years longer in this work than I do.
So what are the future plans for you and the foundation?
Well, we're kind of making up as we go along. We're trying to keep the foundation afloat. We do need donations to keep it afloat, because right now, to be honest with you, all the work that I do and my colleagues do, any monies needed really comes out of their own pockets. We don't have a large kitty to draw from. We're a nonprofit organization, so any monies that are donated or come into the foundation are used for the foundation. No one draws a salary, nobody gets paid for anything. But someone reaches out to me and says, I need your help. I'm not going to say, well, if you can't pay my expenses, I'm not coming. I say my expenses. They don't pay me to help them, but we will. If I've got to fly to Oklahoma or something, I say, well, could you cover my airfare? And I've had people, they don't have two nickels to rub together, and they can't. I say, well, I'm not. I don't say I'm not coming. I'll say, let me figure it out, and I'll go, and I'll. My wife will look at me and go, how much is this going to cost us? I'm like, it doesn't matter. Somebody needs my help, but I'll certainly make sure that I'm needed to go out there before I do. I'm not just going to jump on a plane because somebody says I need help. We would, have members that are closer. We have members in Oklahoma. We have one of our directors is out there. But Oklahoma's a big state. So, she might have to take a team of people to go there. It might be a 6-hour drive, So there's a lot of things to consider, but we're hoping to grow the foundation, grow in membership, grow in like I said, donations. If anybody ever wants to donate to the foundation, you can go to warrenlegacy.com, the Facebook, the web page, and there's also a Facebook page, Warren Legacy Foundation. You can visit for information. If anybody wants to join, or if anybody needs help, if there's any investigators out there that need some advice, I'd be more than happy. Like I said, I don't have all the answers, but I'd be more than happy to share my wisdom with you, whatever's left.
Now you have an event coming up. Do you want to tell everybody about that event that's coming up?
Okay, so which one are you referring to? The Enfield House? I do have an event coming up. The Enfield Haunting. You guys might know it as the Enfield Demon House. I just shake my head. The Enfield Haunting is a case I worked on back in 2007 through 2010. Very, very, very trying case. Very tough case. Very evil presence there. I stopped short of saying it was demonic. The house was delivered, I'm going to say, by Bishop McKenna. But I do have an event coming up there next Saturday, the 10th. And what I'm doing with the family, because the family cannot keep a renter. It's a duplex, the house. The family lives on one side. But the other side of the house, they can't keep a renter in there because they have experiences and they get scared away. But what I do is I give a talk. We only sell like 10 tickets, because you're actually sitting in the living room where all of these events happen. And I have video evidence. Jeff knows what I'm talking about. He's got a copy of it. And I show this evidence and I talk about the case and I talk about other cases. And so that's coming up on the 10th. If anybody's in the Connecticut area, Massachusetts area, I believe there's still some seats left. I do a lot of library lectures. I have some of those coming up. So I wasn't sure exactly which one you were talking about, but an event in, I think it's in October or September at the old Paulding Jail. It's in Ohio somewhere. I will be speaking there. I think it's the 28th of September. And
yeah, you guys can find, well, you can find us all. If they look you up on Facebook, it's just Joe Frankie, his Facebook page. He has all of those things posted on there. So if anybody's
I try to put them on there. I don't want to bore you with all of them because there's so many of them. I'd have to check my calendar.
And also, if you have any, other things that you'd like to ask him in private, you can contact him through Messenger, and he'll be there to help you out. Any last questions, anybody that you want to give Joe before we let Joe break free?
Yeah, just folks, just listen. I'm just a simple guy, So I've had people say that they're embarrassed or they're afraid to approach me. It's like, no, I'm just a guy, I'm just a person. I don't have a big S on my shirt, But if anybody needs my help or any advice or wants to run a picture by me, I'd be more than happy to help. So you can get me through my Facebook page. My email address is jfranke, Franke, no I, jfranke@warrenlegacy.com. So you can reach me through there. My Facebook page is my personal page. You can follow me there. Or you can look on the warrenlegacyfoundation.com as well. And my information is there as well. So
that's where you guys can find him. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. I really enjoyed this interview.
Oh, I loved it. You guys are great.
Thanks.
I hope you have me back.
Again.
Yeah, Jeff won't, but you can.
Okay. Now I won't wait that long to call you. How about that?
No, call me anytime. You guys, if you have my number. If you want my phone number, if I haven't given it to you,
I don't know. I might have it. I don't know. We'll have to check. Please, everybody, just remember to hit that like button. The likes help, so that lets me know that you guys are enjoying what we're doing. And as always, guys, thank you very much. I appreciate each and every one of you, and thank you for joining us all on the Raw side.
Thank you for having me.